heads of various departments of the institute, sisters on the faculty, participants from various institutions, and your students of the School of Education. Good afternoon to all. I'm happy to greet all of you and welcome all to the National Education Day webinar being observed at our institute. With immense blessings of the Almighty and seeking the blessings of our founder and first Chancellor, Dr. T.S. Avinashilingam, our Ayya Avargal, and the visionary and architect of this Temple of Learning, Dr. Rajamal P. Devdas, our Amma Avargal, I feel immensely privileged to be part of this observation. Our sincere gratitude is to our Managing Trustee and former Chancellor, Dr. T.S.K. Meenakshi Sundaram Anna Avargal, for all support extended in our endeavors. Our sincere appreciation and gratitude to our Vice Chancellor, Madam Dr. Premavati Vijayan, for leading us in the right direction. Madam was the former Dean, School of Education, and Professor at the Department of Special Education for almost 3.5 decades, and with contributing untiring service to the Institute, and over the years enabled the School of Education with the 3 departments, namely Education, Physical Education, and Special Education, have a distinct position in the education map of the country. Our Registrar, Dr. who is also the Professor, Department of Food Science and Nutrition, has been a great source of strength and inspiration in all our endeavors and achievements. We owe a special word of appreciation and gratitude to Dr. G.P. Jayanti, Director of Research and Consultancy, who, along with all her other responsibilities, who has been guiding us, especially during this pandemic time, in organizing various webinars and workshops for the faculty and students of the Institute. Thank you, Madam. To share a few lines of our Institute for the benefit of our new entrants to the School of Education, namely the first year BSc, Undergraduate Special Education, B.Ed, BSc Physical Education, and Bachelor's in Physical Education, and for our resource person, our webinar chief guest, Dr. Sunga. Sri Avinashilingam Home Science College for Women was established by our great patriot and educationalist, Dr. T.S. Avinashilingam, under the auspices of the Avinashilingam Education Trust in 1957 with just 45 students. It is now one of the largest institutions in the country, imparting education in all levels, at all levels and in all streams. Ayya Avargal was ably assisted by none other than the icon of home science, former Chancellor Dr. Rajamal P. Devdas. Our institute is one of the 8 colleges of which autonomy was conferred in the year 1978, and in the year 1988, it was conferred by deemed university status. We are indeed privileged to be accredited by NAC with A+ grade in the 4th cycle of NAC accreditation. The university follows educational ideals of Sri Ramakrishna, Holy Mother Sri Sharada Devi, Swami Vivekananda, and Mahabir, and upholds the life of purity, discipline, and service. The university functions under 7 schools, namely School of Home Science, School of Physical Science and Computational Science, School of Biosciences, School of Arts and Social Science, School of Education, and School of Engineering. We are indeed happy that from 45 students, we are with an existing strength of students of around 7,000. The Teacher of Education Institute was initiated in the year 1968 as Bachelor's in Teacher Education with 70 students and a faculty strength of 5. The Teacher Education initiates graduates and postgraduates into the profession of teaching by instilling in them knowledge, competencies, skills, and attitudes needed to act as agents of social change and modernization. To just say, sharing a few thoughts on National Education Day, every year on 11th November, our nation celebrates National Education Day to commemorate the birth anniversary of Maulana Abul Kalam Azad, the first Union Education Minister of India from 1947 to 1958. Sri Azad is credited with shaping modern education system of India. It was under his tenure that the first Indian Institute of Technology, Indian Institute of Social Science, School of Planning and Architecture, and Agriculture, including the University Grants Commission, were established during his tenure. A freedom fighter and an eminent scholar, he was responsible for setting up of the All India Institute of Council for Technical Education. The central government had on 11/8 declared the day to be National Education Day, and the first celebrations were inaugurated by the then President of India, Srimati Pratibha Patel, at Vigyan Bhavan, New Delhi. As quoted by our Vice President, Sri Venkaiah Naidu, Sri Maulana Abul Kalam Azad will always be remembered for his enduring contribution to the field of education and for relentlessly striving for national unity. As students of education, I think all of you should go into the website to learn more about his contributions to the field of education. Observing National Education Day at our institute, we are indeed privileged to have with us Professor S.M. Sugo, Department of Education, Northeastern Hill University, Shillong. Professor was the former Dean, School of Education from 2016 to 90, and also Professor and Head Department, and has a vast experience in teaching and research for over 2.5 decades. She has served as a member of various professional bodies and also significant assignments both within and outside the university, contributing towards guiding PhD scholars and completing various projects for the Government of Meghalaya and the Ministry of Human Resource Development, and with accomplished publications to her credit. We take immense pleasure in welcoming you, Madam, to speak on the topic, Learning for People, Planet, Prosperity and Peace. Thus, the ultimate in education is peace on the planet and prosperity for its people. We wish to inform you, Madam, that we had several students from Meghalaya, one of whom I had the opportunity to guide as a postgraduate scholar in human development. And last year also we had a student in the Bachelor's of Education. Thus we have numerous students coming and being students of our institute at various levels. We thank you for accepting our invitation and for chairing the session on this webinar. Welcome, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
To say a few words about education, I just will wind up. Thank you, ma'am. There is more to education than just academics. Swami Vivekananda said, education is not the amount of information that you put into your brain and runs right there, undigested all your life. We must have life building, man making, character making, assimilation of ideas. If you have assimilated 5 ideas and made them your life and character, you have more education than any man who has got by heart a whole library. Swami Vivekananda thus says, we want that education by which character is formed, strength of mind is increased, the intellect is expanded, and by which one can stand on one's own feet. I think all of us are fully involved by participating in various webinars on National Education Policy 2020, which is the talk of the nation, talk of all national and state level institutions. And thus, I take this opportunity to thank our chief guest for accepting our invitation. And to conclude, I thank Dr. Victoria Nova and Dr. Karthika Deepa, Organizing Secretary, for coordinating and organizing this webinar as part of National Education Day. Thank all the students for participating in the quiz and poster competition organized as part of the observance. Thanking one and all for this wonderful opportunity given to share a few thoughts. Thank you once again. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Now it is time for me to introduce our chief guest. I think I am pronouncing her name correctly. Dr. S.M. Sunho. Ma'am, am I correct? Suha. Okay, sorry,
yes, you're correct.
Suha. I'm really glad.
You know? Yeah.
Suha.
It's okay. Yes, Suha. Yeah.
Okay. So actually, I was thrilled to see her profile because she holds position as Dean, School of Education, head of the department in education and member of executive council in Northeastern Hill University, Shillong. And her teaching experience was started in the year 1990, and even now, and the positions are lecturer, reader, and now as a professor she is working there. And she got so many things ma'am has highlighted, and I want to share one surprising thing is she has supervised and awarded more than 31 PhD degrees. I'm so glad to see that. We are really privileged to have you here, ma'am, with us. And she got more than 4 projects from different agencies such as Government of Meghalaya and MHRD. Another great thing is she has published many articles in different national and international journals, and she has published 6 books. So deliver a lecture on in this special day, which is National Education Day. Over to you, madam. It is really our privilege.
Thank you, madam. A very good afternoon to all of you. The Chief Patron, Dr. T.S.K. Meenakshi, patrons, Dr. Premavati, Dean, School of Education, Dr. T. Geeta, Dr. S. Kausalya, Registrar, Professor Victoria Naomi, the Head Department of Special Education, Dr. Kritik Deepa, Department of Education, Dr. Shanti, Department of Special Education, faculty members, heads of departments, participants, a very good afternoon to all of you. I'm really very grateful that you have given me this opportunity to interact with you and speak to you. You know, it's really a privilege to meet you through this webinar, and I hope and pray that we will also meet in more webinars and also more programs. So thank you so much for inviting me, and you've given me a theme which is very pertinent and very important actually for each and every one of us. Now, I'm really happy that you are also observing the National Education Day 2020, and I hope that the celebrations that you've had are beneficial to your students and also to the members of the universities. So thank you for inviting me once again, and I will give my presentation at this point of time. So kindly excuse me a little bit. I will open my slide and start with the presentation. Just give me just a few seconds to open. Hello, can you see the slides?
Yes, madam. Yes, madam.
It's okay now, no? I have not seen the slides myself, so I don't know what is happening. Okay. Can you see now?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Can you see the slides?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you. Now, the theme of... so now I will start. Now, the theme of education for this year is learning for people, planet, prosperity, and peace. And thank you for selecting this theme, because I feel that what I said, I feel that this theme is very important. So, when we talk about this theme, it really catches our eye, learning for the planet, learning for prosperity, learning for the people, learning for peace. And these are important issues that needs to be discussed. So here, when we talk about the theme of education here, empower people, it can also protect the planet, build shared prosperity, and foster peace. So without inclusive and equitable quality and lifelong opportunities for all, countries will not succeed in achieving gender equality and breaking the cycle of poverty that is leaving millions of children, youth, and adults behind. So according to the UN, the 2020 celebration positions education and the learning it enables as humanity's greatest renewable resources, and reaffirms the role of education as a fundamental right, a public good, and an enabler of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Now, when we talk about sustainable development, what is actually sustainable development? Sustainable development here is an organized principle for global development that supports well-being. Well-being of whom? Well-being of the people, and also the well-being of the planet. Now, when we talk about sustainable development, this sustainable development bridges the gaps. Since its emergence, we have seen expanded to bridge gaps among the environmental, economic, and social concerns, attempting to integrate environmental protection and ecological integration, economic viability, and then social and human development. And here, when we talk about this, intergenerational equity, balancing the needs of present and future generation is also a key component. So here we find that, sustainable development, understanding the importance of sustainable development is very important. So the most common notion of sustainable development here was popularized, as you recall, in the year 1987 through the Brundtland Report, A Common Future, which raised questions about the consequences of traditional economic growth in terms of environmental degradation and poverty. The report referred to development which meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs, and listed critical objectives for sustainable development, changing the quality of economic growth, meeting essential needs of jobs, then we have food, energy, water and sanitation, ensuring a sustainable population level. Conserving and enhancing natural resources is another part. Reorienting technology and managing risk, linking environmental and economic concerns in decision making, and reorienting international economic relations to make development more participatory. So here when we talk about education, we all know that education is a human right and a fundamental need for individuals to be able to reach their potentials. Now, this is embedded in the heart of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, 1948, Article 26, and further strengthens in following human rights treaties. So education, we can see, is the building block of productive and prosperous society. So it is also a way through which respect, equality, equity, dignity can be promoted in order to create and sustain peaceful societies where individuals are free from oppression and also discrimination. Look at this slide. According to the UN statistics, which we get from the UN, about 265 million children and adolescents around the world do not have the opportunity to enter or complete school. So this is very unfortunate. And we can also see that 670 million children and adolescents cannot read and do basic maths. Education here is being violated, and it is really unacceptable. Now, when we come to education, we know that, as I've said, education is a human right, a public good, and a public responsibility. Therefore, it must not become a tool for reinforcing inequality, but it should be a tool for reinforcing equality, providing inclusive and equitable quality education and lifelong education or lifelong opportunities for all by the year 2030. And this we find in the goal 4 of the Sustainable Development Goals adopted by the member states of the UN in 2015. Now, when we come to people refers to the inclusive social development. We talk about inclusive social development of people. Now here, we can see that a humanistic approach to education implies an integrated approach to the multiple individual and collective purposes of education. Education at the heart of both personal and community development. So its mission is to help all people develop their talents fully and also to realize their creative potentials, including responsibilities for their own lives and also capacity to contribute to society. So here we can see that education is also a powerful catalyst, battling poverty and equality, improving health, well-being, and overcoming discrimination. It is also key to achieve gender equality, and it's vital for individuals to live healthy lives and make informed decisions for themselves and their families and their communities. So it can strengthen democracy and the rule of law, as well as enhance equality by empowering vulnerable populations. Now, when we talk about people, here we need to understand that the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development states like this: we are determined to end poverty and hunger in forms and dimensions, and also to ensure that all human beings can fulfill their potential in dignity and equality and in a healthy environment. So here we find that millions, particularly the marginalized, lack access to basic services, as you can see here in the slide. I would just like to state some of the statistics which I have observed here. In 2012, in low-income countries, only 28% had access to sanitation facilities and 25% to electricity. 67% made it to the last grade of primary education. When we look at the second point, gender equality here, gender equality is a long way off. Only 19% of heads of states or government are women. Women in many countries do at least twice as much unpaid work as men. Then the which I want to talk about is with regards to education, the role of education to improve health and reduce fertility rates. Educating mothers increase reliance on exclusive breastfeeding by 90% for the first 6 months. And lastly, we find that the health and nutrition can also be improved by education. So, when we talk about education, education plays a very important role. And here, when we talk about health, since we are all women, I would like to stress a little bit on the health, nutrition of women. So the progress in health, nutrition, and gender equality is intrinsically linked with progress in education. Now, first of all, let us see gender equality. Now, substantive gender equality is far from being achieved. Gender gaps, as we can see, still exist in pay, work conditions, and also leadership goals, even among similarly qualified men and women. Gender-based violence continues to be a major issue here. Secondly, we also see, with regards to rights of education, millions of people, particularly the marginalized, are still denied their right to education. For example, poverty, gender, location, disability, and immigrant status to the completion of basic education of good quality. With regards to the relevant knowledge and skills, education improves health by giving people relevant knowledge and skills. we can see that there is a huge potential for delivering health and nutrition interventions through schools, which subsequently also increase school attendance and also learning. We also have innovative teaching programs or innovative education programs which can improve sanitation practices. For women is at the heart of social development. We also see that gender gaps in education and health are key drivers of income inequality in low and middle income countries. Further, learning to read and write helps women challenge practices that perpetuates their low social status, including by making their participations in politics more likely. We also find that female literacy helps reduce child and maternal mortality and reduce high fertility levels. Looking at children's need to be healthy and well nourished in order to attend school and learn. Health and nutrition infrastructure can be used to deliver education to these children. Disease causes teacher absenteeism and attrition. Access to water, sanitation, hygiene, and energy have also an impact on education outcomes. So here we find that children needs to be healthy and well nourished. But if we have difficulties, if we have problems, if we have barriers to attaining good health, then it becomes very difficult. The next point here is with regards to education, which relates to health, gender, and education sectors. Now, education on its own is really not enough to achieve equality in society. So, the health, gender, and education sectors, unless they do this, it'll be very difficult for us to achieve the goal. We have equal number of boys and girls in schools and has not yet resulted in gender equal societies because of the persistent discrimination. We also see that education needs to work with other sectors to change daily and community behaviors. Men and women needs to be engaged through comprehensive education and empowerment approaches to improve gender attitudes and also behavior. So if social development is viewed as the right to healthy, empowered lives, then it is clear that education is a powerful enabler and a key aspect of social development. Whether understood as knowledge and skills which young people acquire at school or as an infrastructure that can be used to deliver interventions, education is central to ensuring that people can live healthy lives and improve their children's lives. So education is a powerful transformation. It has a powerful transformation effect in enhancing gender equality in societies and improving agencies, voice, and participations for vulnerable populations, a majority of whom are adolescent girls. Now, looking at the planet Earth, this is also another theme which we want to talk about. The planet Earth here is in a dire state. We find that natural resources have been overexploited. There is a significant loss of biodiversity, and this is occurring massive rise of carbon levels in leading to climate change and associated extreme weather. We can also see toxic substances are increasing. They are found in air, water, soil, and flora and fauna. The planet faces desertification. Droughts we have seen have not fared much better. Even though the number of people living in extreme poverty has declined by over 1 million, according to the statistics given by the UN in 2015, disparity between rich and poor continues to rise. So here we see that many people nowadays are trapped in poverty. There is lack of clean air, drinking water, as well as adequate food and nutrition. Many families are forcibly displaced or on the run due to protracted conflicts. While disparity persists in access to education of good quality, it is out of these concerns that the concept of sustainable development was born. So here, individual and collective human actions are putting immense strain on the planet and also life forms it supports. With increasing urgency, remind us that human survivability is at risk without significant changes to current development patterns, which causes environmental degradation. Rapid biodiversity loss and climate change, formal, non-formal, informal learning opportunities, however, can play a major part in the transformation needed to realize more environmentally sustainable societies in regards to the initiatives from governments, civil society, and also private sectors. So we can see that education shapes values and also perspectives. It also contributes to the development of the skills, concepts, and also tools that can help reverse or stop unsustainable practices and allows humans to live in greater natural world. Now, with regards to the planet Earth, we have also seen that in the 2030 agenda of the sustainable development, I will read it to you. It says like this. You can read it here. I have given you in the slide. We are determined to protect the planet from the degradation, including through sustainable consumption and protection, sustainable management, its natural resources, and taking urgent actions on climate change so that it can support the need of the present and future generation. Now, let us see what is the role of education here then. Now, the slide shows you the role of education with regards to the planet Earth. Education here is the most effective tool for reducing fertility rates, for example. Environmental education can increase green knowledge. Sustainable practices can continue outside of school. Education is also crucial for disaster preparedness, and education system should not encourage unsustainable lifestyles, and they can learn much from the indigenous communities. Now, education can help people understand and respond to environmental issues. It helps develop the right knowledge, skills, and technical solutions that can change environmental behavior. Education can also show, or it has already been shown, to be the best tool for climate change awareness. Education is the most effective means of curtailing population growth. Education can also improve disaster preparedness and reduce vulnerability to climate-related disasters. Now, these green schools should have well-designed curriculum and also hands-on learning outside of school so that they can strengthen people's connection with nature. This is a very important factor. Then what happens outside of school? Outside of school, we must learn through communities and throughout our lives. So our experiences which we gather throughout our lives should be a learning experience for us and also for the community. This will encourage people to reflect on their values, participate more actively in developing, and also we need to shift towards sustainable living. Then we also see that traditional and specifically indigenous knowledge should be passed down throughout the generation. And this is, as we all know, a major resource for adapting to climate change. Then we can also provide instructions in local languages in schools, which will help to share knowledge among the generations or among the students or among the public and also the communities outside the school. Then we also we should also say we have also seen that education system is a system which needs to be very careful. It needs to be careful not only to encourage unsustainable lifestyles, it should help in learning for economic growth alone will, for economic growth, and this economic growth actually alone will not bring sustainable solution, because there are so many other factors which can help in sustainability. So education systems, the curriculum must reflect on this critical basis of the indigenous communities' knowledge, which rests on deep intercultural respect, along with the openness to plurality of knowledge systems and also of culture. Then we also see that schools need to take a holistic approach to tackling environmental challenges. Now, this is also another feature of education, or another role which education can play. And here we find that both teachers and students need to learn about climate change and its underlying causes. Pedagogy needs to encourage collaboration and participation. Schools needs to engage with their surrounding communities, and green operations and facilities need to be built. So these are some of the things that we need to look from the angle of education. And again, the private sectors must encourage lifelong learning to fight for climate change. So efforts could include workplace learning, joining in multi-stakeholder partnership, develop environmental solutions, reducing companies' ecological footprints, and also funding greener schools. So here, through these, we can say that education plays a major role in the transformation towards more environmentally sustainable societies. And we know that by addressing this, the impact of environmental crisis such as climate change in our planet is very important. There are there are problems and challenges which are really pressing. Human behavior has led to environmental crisis, with various kinds of problems contributing, including overpopulation, as I've said earlier, unsustainable lifestyle that consumes more resources than are available, and individual behavior that harms the environment, such as fossil fuels or landfilling waste. So here, accordingly, solutions to environmental crisis vary, and they must be addressed. These issues must be addressed at all levels. I would like to say individual level, community level, regional level, national, cumulatively, global, and so on and so forth. So the approaches, of course, to learning will vary, and it will be different from one level to the other. Now, let us talk about prosperity. Now, we have been talking about the planet. Now, let us go to prosperity. Now, what is prosperity actually? Education, including vocational skill development, is essential for inclusive growth that does not leave anyone. Education and training can enhance job opportunities, increase the incomes of the poorest, and if equitably provided, reduce inequality. So reducing education disparity can increase access to decent work among the disadvantaged groups. Now, when we talk about prosperity, education can help increase agricultural productivity. It can also provide skills for green innovation. It can reduce working poverties. It can also sustain and expand high skills occupation at tertiary level, and education can also keep up with the labor market needs. Now, what is the role of education with regards to this prosperity? Now, I would again like to read here the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development regarding prosperity. Here you can read, we are determined to ensure that all human beings can enjoy prosperous and fulfilling lives, and that economic, social, and technological progress occurs in harmony with nature. So education has a key role to play here. It has a key role to play in moving towards environmentally sustainable and inclusive economic growth for prosperity. So education and lifelong learning are needed and necessary to make production and consumption sustainable, to provide green skills for green industries, and also orient research and higher education towards greener innovation. Now, here, creating green industries relies on high-skilled workers. So training is required, skills are required, training is required to master the skills which are required for different types of innovation and growth. Secondly, education can also help food production and farming to be more sustainable. Agriculture, for example, urgently needs to transform to meet environmental and global needs. So agriculture contributes 1/3 of all greenhouse gas emission skills as well as critical knowledge. Sustainability challenges in agriculture, form of extension programs can increase farmer productivity. Thirdly, education can also contribute to economic growth, but education must be kept up with the changing phase of work and produce more high-skilled workers. See, now we have so much of unemployment because many of our workers are not highly skilled. So we need to produce So here, education is very important to improve the economic growth of individuals. Then fourthly, we see that education of good quality can also help ensure economic growth, and it does not leave anyone behind. Education also reduces and helps close wage gaps. So when we talk about education, it has of work which they are qualified in, and for example, if workers come from a low economic status background, but if they have the skills with them, there will be a chance for them to be able to get jobs. So here we find that education plays a very important role. It is a central part in the creation of a green and inclusive economy with sustainable models and new and retool sectors, industries, and jobs. So here it's very clear that education can play a very critical dual role of addressing poverty and also inequality while supporting the transition to a new sustainable development. So here we can find that, or we can see that all stakeholders, civil societies, non-government organizations should fight for sustainability, and this will lead to a transformation which is necessary to improve the prosperity of individuals. Finally, we talk about peace. Now, peace, we all know what peace is. Peace, persistent violence and armed conflict undermine all human rights and all too often violate the right to education. So preventing violence and achieving sustainable peace requires democratic and representative institutions and well-functional justice system. So education is a condition for political participations, inclusion, advocacy, and also democracy. So here, when we talk about peace, peace is also an aspect where education can play a vital role in building up and in reconciling the different barriers of peace. Education can initiate the improvement and lead towards peace. Peace, here, what education can do to peace. Education can encourage participation. It can also help in better recognizing peace agreements. only the right type of education should work. So, every time we need to see what are the needs of our students, and we need to give them the right type of education. Now, skill development is very important. So, this is very important, where we train our children for skill development. And then, even conflicts are being destroyed through the process of education. Of course, not totally, but we can destroy conflict to a certain extent through the process of education. And education helps people get access to justice systems. So here, again, I would like to the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, referring to peace. We are determined to foster peaceful, just, and inclusive society which are free and fear from violence, fear and violence. There can be no sustainable development without peace, and no peace without sustainable development. How nice it is if we can achieve this objective. So what can the education system do for peace? Education, getting children into school doesn't result in more peace, but the right type of education can help. Conflicts and violence are meanwhile destroying education system. So education makes people more likely to participate in political processes constructively and non-violently. Education and communication campaigns can teach people how to participate in politics and also access political information. The right type of education and teaching promotes transition to more participatory political situation. Democratic regimes tend to result in more and better quality education. Now, when we talk about education, better education is clearly linked to more women in political leadership. So we need more women in political leadership. Gender equality in politics is far from being achieved right at this point of time, though we talk of women's empowerment. Women with more education possesses more skills to take up leadership roles, and they can do so, and they have the capacity and they have the power to be leaders. When there are more women in politics, I'm sure gender gaps in education can shrink. An education that is provided equally with inclusive teaching and learning materials is also a powerful tool, a powerful preventive tool, and an antidote for conflict. So when we talk about conflict increasingly large toll on the educational system. Children, teachers, schools are frequently under attack. Forcibly displaced people, especially children and youth, are in dire need of access to education. Other forms of violence, including school-based bullying and sexual violence, are also of concern. Education should better recognize in peace-building agendas for its role in helping with conflict resolution. So education can reduce crime and violence against children and youth. Educational programs help to marginalized people access also legal protection. So I would like to ask these questions to each one of us. What makes a peaceful and non-violent society? How can development be made sustainable in conditions of violent conflict and insecurity? The answers to all these are very complex. Yet educational roles are multifaceted. It is crucial whether it involves encouraging people, particularly the young, to vote or support participation in political process and becoming politically active. What students are taught and how teaching is conducted are cornerstones of the relationship between education, conflict, and also peace building. So peace and non-violence are not promoted simply by the virtue of children and youth, but by teachers enabling students to acquire useful skills when confronted with circumstances that violence. So here, education reflects social tension, including conflict-related ideologies and stereotypes. So the relationship between education, peace, and conflicts deserves far more attention to enable the promotion of positive contributions to peace building, access to justice, and also protection from violence, whether large scale or initiative. So in conclusion, I would like to say that education at the heart of both personal and social development is very important. Education is the heart of both personal and community development. Its mission is to help all people develop their talents fully and to realize their creative potentials, including responsibilities of their own lives and also capacity to contribute to society. So here we find that education can contribute towards the development of the society and also help in allowing greater harmony with the natural world. So thank you, and I hope that this deliberation here has been helpful and also beneficial to all, and I hope that these celebrations that we are having now has been, effective, and it will be, useful for each and every one of us. Thank you.
Thank you, madam, for a lovely presentation. It is thought-provoking. We realized our role as an educator in different dimensions and how to educate our students towards people, planet, peace, and prosperity. We can understand the difference between so-called education and real education, focusing on 4 P's. Thank you, madam, for kindling our thoughts, and also it gives us new ideas for our future research also. Thank you, madam. Now I request our Mrs. Shanti madam to deliver the vote of thanks.
Deepa?
Yes, ma'am.
Deepa, excuse me, Shanti. Any question from the audience? You can give 5 minutes time for the audience to make any questions. If they have any questions, audience can make. Am I clear to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Deepa?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Deepa?
Ma'am, yes, ma'am.
Any questions from audience? You can give 5 minutes time.
Yes,
you can
ma'am.
announce. You can announce now.
Yeah. Students, if you are having audience,
Please
if you are
announce
having
it.
any questions, please post it in the chat box.
Hello. Yeah, you can. Yeah.
Ma'am, yes,
Madam?
ma'am.
Yeah, yes. I will try to answer in the chat box because I was looking at my time. Yeah. If you have any questions, you just put it in the chat box.
Yeah.
I will try to answer in the chat box because, yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, Victoria, ma'am is having a Viva verse.
Okay, then you proceed.
Viva verse exam by 3:45, ma'am. So if they are having any questions,
Okay.
let them post it in the chat box. I will send the questions to her and she will answer later.
Okay, fine. Then go.
Okay, ma'am.
Then
I'm so sorry because my time is very limited. They're just waiting for me to start the Viva Voce.
Then over
So,
to Shanti.
yes,
Okay.
I'm so sorry. If there is any question, you can just put it in the chat box. I've seen here no questions, ma'am. In the chat
Ma'am,
box.
so far no
Okay.
questions, ma'am. So far no questions, ma'am.
Okay.
I
Shanti, over to
request
Shanti.
Shanti, ma'am.
Okay.
Shanti, ma'am.
Shall we start now? Okay. Thank you, Deepa. Thank you, ma'am. Dear participants, gratitude makes sense of our past, brings peace for today, and creates a vision for tomorrow. Good afternoon, one and all present here. I deem it as a great pleasure to propose a vote of thanks in this momentous occasion. At the outset, I submit my deep gratitude to the architect of this temple of learning, Reverend Dr. Avinashilingam Ayya Avargal, and Reverend and beloved Amma, Dr. P. Rajamal Tevadas Avargal. We are proud to say at this august occasion that the vision of our two great leaders, that is providing equality, dignity, and higher education to the women, are being translated into action. Thank you, Ayya and Amma Avargal. I express my deep sense of gratitude to the invited guest for gracing this occasion. I take this opportunity to thank Professor Sherwin Sanha, Department of Education, North Eastern Hill University, Shillong, for her wonderful presentation regarding learning for people, planet, prosperity, and peace. Thank you, madam, for your lecture. On behalf of all of us, I extend my heartfelt gratitude to you, ma'am. Thank you, madam. Thankfulness is the beginning of gratitude. Gratitude is the completion of thankfulness. Gratitude is shown in acts towards the fulfillment of mission and vision of our university. By our managing trustee Anna, thanks to the convener of this meet, Dr. Victoria Naomi, Head of the Department of Special Education, and the Organizing Secretary, Dr. Karthik Deepa, for the wonderful Educational Day meet through Google. Thank you, Madam, for your presence and support. The wheel cannot spin without spikes. The spikes of this university is our faculty members, to whom a heartfelt and sincere thanks is extended. I appreciate the students for their enthusiasm to listen to our eminent speaker. I am sure this special address would have impacted you understanding the corrective perspective of education today. I thank our students for their cooperation. I thank you all and all. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, Professor.
Deepa?
Yes, ma'am.
Conclude. Deepa, conclude it. Thank you.
Okay, audience, please find the feedback link in the chat box. And thank you so much for all of you. Thank you, resource person, and thank you all the faculty members, deans and senior faculty members. Thank you, students. You can leave the meeting and you can use the feedback link to get the certificates. Those who participate in quiz and poster, you will receive the certificates later. Thank you.
Thank you. See you all again.
Yes, ma'am.
Nice
Thank you,
meeting
ma'am.
all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
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 Bye, ma'am.
Bye. We'll be in touch. Okay, we will be in touch. Bye.
Bye, ma'am. Bye, ma'am.
Bye.
Bye, ma'am.